We all get into sales for our own reasons. Sometimes we fall into it, sometimes we're pulled into it, sometimes it's the best option out there. Today we've got an interesting story. Somebody who had a lot of personal struggles uh, was able to resolve them, some of them, most of them, and then started to rebuild their life. And in that process, uh, it's not easy and got into sales and then started to enjoy it, started to become good at it, but then rode the roller coaster of sales, good months, bad months, and figured out a way of modeling the people who knew what to do. And it's the easiest way to become good at anything is to follow what other people do. Not so much copy, but emulate, ask for their feedback, see what's working for them, try it yourself, see how you're doing it differently, and slowly but surely become better at it. So let's get into the interview. I think this story, it's something most of us can relate to at some level or another, that we've had ups and downs in our lives. And, rebuilding it is not easy, or even building it is not easy. Let's get into the interview. I'll sum it up at the end. And make sure you're checking out b2brevenue.com. Oh, I've got a big announcement. The Sales Leadership Show is now live. I've been kind of keeping it under the hood until I got enough episodes to post. These are interviews with sales leaders and some real good revelations that come out of them. Not only why they get into leadership, what they like about it, and who's the best match for sales leadership. I listened to a couple of them because I found a very keen distinction, and I'll share it at the end of the interview here, about the right reasons and the most effective reasons to get into sales leadership. So just go to your podcast player, type in Sales Leadership Show, not podcast, but show, or put my name in there. It'll come right up. It has a little rocket image. I'm sure you'll like it. Subscribe to it if you're interested. Tell a friend about it. And also, if you see my stuff fly by on your LinkedIn feed, give it a little like, a little comment, a little share, a little follow would be appreciated. Here we go.
Hey, Jeff, welcome to the show. As a way of getting started, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Brian. Happy to be here with you. So my name is Jeff Teppel, born and raised in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I now reside in beautiful, sunny Miami, and I work for an organization called GDS Group. We are a pipeline partner to a lot of large technology companies in the form of physical and virtual events. And I run sales for a portion of the business focused on enterprise accounts. So happy to be here, happy to share a little bit more about my experience and hopefully help some of the people listening today.
Cool. Why'd you get into sales?
I think I stumbled into sales, Brian.
Go
I'm not
figure.
sure that I chose sales as an occupation. So a little bit about my background. So I actually, about 5 years ago, was addicted to drugs and alcohol in a really bad way. Couldn't really find myself and was going nowhere fast. And I finally, waved the white flag. I said enough was enough, and I had moved down to South Florida, into Port St. Lucie for rehab, recovery, and trying to get my life back on track. That landed me into a halfway house, and at this halfway house, they required me to have a job, believe it or not. And the job they offered me was a pool boy job, so a pool cleaning job, where they gave me a little white Ford Ranger, and had no air conditioning. I was driving around for $5 an hour. So I got about $75 cash every single day. And about 8 months into that job, I was absolutely miserable. I hated everything about it, and I knew that something had to change. And through my process of recovery, I knew that nothing was going to change on its own. If I wanted something to change in my life, I had to action it on my own. So I called my brother, who had lived in Miami, and asked him to find me some type of work somewhere, I'll do anything else. So his wife at the time, it was an event coordinator for GDS Group. She got me an interview, and that's how I landed my first role in sales. So that's kind of how, I guess, sales found me instead of I found sales.
And you like the air conditioning.
The air conditioning was the biggest perk of the job.
Yeah. And what was it like starting that? Because it's a lot different than cleaning a pool.
Brian, so when I started this job, it was marketing focused. So putting on events in the marketing world. And my first day on the job, I looked to the person next to me, who, funny enough, is now my fiance. And I said to her, what do I do? What is all of this? I don't even know what e-commerce means. Like, I knew nothing about nothing, and that was the only thing I was sure about. So it was a completely brand new experience, but in a way, I think that really benefited me, because I was a completely blank slate, and essentially the process that I took is the same process that I learned in recovery, which is find somebody who has what you want and copy what they do. It's the same way I made it through high school, which is the best way to get an A is to copy. So I literally listened to phone calls and copied the best people around me, stole the best of what they did, and tried to incorporate it as my own.
Yeah. And how long did it take before you felt comfortable doing it?
Oh, comfortable.
5 years.
I think sales, that's an interesting question, because I don't know if you ever truly feel 100% confident in sales. I think if you do, then for me, I would feel complacent if I felt 100% comfortable. So for me, I'm always trying to be learning and trying new things and adopting new methods. One of the reasons I follow you and others is to try to learn and incorporate new things. I'd say when I started to actually, you know, feel good in my position, it probably took me 6 months to a year to feel 100% confident in what I was doing. And that's just from a product perspective and a comfortability and confidence perspective. It takes time to push through those boundaries. But yeah, I mean, I think if you're stagnant and not moving, then you're actually moving backwards.
And what do you like about sales?
I love, I think that sales is one of those very unique jobs. And I've had many odd jobs in my time, could never keep a job for more than 3 or 4 months at a time. But the thing I love most about sales is, I think, the adrenaline rush, the chase, the excitement, the unknown, being vulnerable and pushing outside your comfort zone, because you learn so much through your experience that you don't necessarily learn anywhere else. And it's being vulnerable, and it's trying things that your mind is telling you, I don't know, it's kind of uncomfortable, I'm kind of scared. But then you do it and you break through this boundary and learn so much about yourself that you can then apply to the rest of your life. I think the lessons that I learn through those processes is what I enjoy most. Obviously, I enjoy speaking with people. I'm definitely a relationship type of individual. So building lifelong relationships. I have clients that I've met a couple years ago that are invited to my wedding. So I think building those bonds, continuing to improve and learn from people. I have a really amazing opportunity where I get to speak to CEOs and CMOs, heads of sales from the largest companies in the world. And if I'm not taking that opportunity to learn from them and to grow, then I'm kind of missing the mark.
And how about like the money? Has the money kind of replaced the high of drugs
You
and
know what?
alcohol?
The money's definitely been good. Obviously, we all work to make money. I don't know if it's replaced the high. I think I've definitely replaced the high in other areas. I think that in my life, and I think this translates really nicely from what I've learned in recovery to what makes me happy today. which is the whole reason I wanted to join this podcast, Brian, was to help other people. I think that's what fills a void in me, is to make others happy, to bring them joy, to support them. And I think that's just really the translation from what I've learned, which is to put others first, into my sales career, that has allowed me to be successful.
And are you still an individual contributor, or are you in leadership now? Or
Yeah, I've jumped around from a couple of different roles within the business, from individual contributor to manager to running the inside sales team and SDR function, which is definitely the most difficult. And now I am on a enterprise account team, looking after some of our larger accounts within the business. So definitely still an individual contributor at this point.
yeah. And what does your day look like now?
I guess my work day looks like a lot of client calls, a lot of strategic conversations about the gaps that exist within their current organizations. I think we, as salespeople, get comfortable in what is in front of us and don't necessarily continue to push and look to the future. So I almost find myself at times getting complacent, where I'm like, okay, I have this great book of business, they're working with me a ton, and I forget to explore the areas that we're actually not working with them, or the areas that we can continue to help them and learn about their business to become a better partner. So most of my day is spent on client calls, engaging with them, making sure that they're well taken care of. But my roots at GDS were cold calling and being able to engage people, deliver value, schedule appointments, and deliver discovery and solutions calls. And that will never leave me. I have a video on my LinkedIn where I actually, I cold called Jason Mraz, the singer. And I called him 2 or 3 days before Mother's Day. So it's my mom's favorite singer. I found his number, his contact details. I cold called him, and I convinced him very generously from Jason to make a video for my mom for Mother's Day. So that's kind of my roots, is being able to cold call, and I enjoy that so much. And even within current accounts, but new business relationships or new business units, that is still the approach that I take, is a cold call, introduce myself, and then I have another 4 strategic accounts that I am that are white space or new business opportunities that I'm calling into every day as well.
So you've moved up pretty fast in 4.5 years. What do you attribute that to?
You posted a video the other day about what does a good salesperson look like, or how do you explain that? What do I attribute my success to? I think I attribute it to, number one, I think always staying humble. I think always be willing to learn and try new things and grow and push yourself outside of your comfort zone. I think detaching myself from the emotions of an outcome or a rejection or any of that. I know that in my life, the experiences that I've been through, nobody is going to ever make me feel worse than I've made myself feel in the days when I was, running the streets and in a really bad way. Yeah. So I have very thick skin in that regard. I really contribute my success mainly, Brian, to the people around me. I didn't know anything when I started this job, and I literally just picked up what they were doing and implemented it for myself, and it worked. And that's what I continue to do. And I think at the core of my selling style is just try to be a good person, try to do the right thing, always look out for your clients, and always be completely transparent. I think that builds a level of trust with clients when you're able to be open with them, that will ultimately lead to successful partnerships.
Yeah. And how do you keep from, the downs? The sales is a roller coaster. You have highs, you close a deal, then you have downs, you get hung up on, you lose a deal. How have you kind of mitigated that emotional roller coaster?
Yeah, so I'll tell you a quick story. So when I first started at GDS, I started in June, so June to December, I started with a 6-month window in that current fiscal. And within that fiscal, I did around 400,000 in business and was pretty good for a new starter. When we came back in January, I thought I was the everything,
Yeah.
of course, and I didn't do another deal for 6 months after that. And I got really down on myself. I called out almost every Monday pretending to have migraines because I didn't want to come into work. I lost my way. I got complacent. I got cocky. And the one thing that I've learned in this job in sales is that you can never be that way. And again, learned that through an actual experience that I put myself through. So the way that I deal with the downs now, or rejection or any of that, is honestly, I try to brush it off and move on to the next thing. My whole mentality is that you cannot control what you cannot control. What I can worry about are the things that are within my control.
Yeah.
And all I can do is the best that I can do every single day to influence what my pipeline looks like and what my future looks like. I'm not gonna, I don't regret the past. I'm not gonna shut the door on it. I'm gonna use it as an experience to drive me into what the future looks like. But for me, it's having that built-in forgetter in your head and just being able to quickly move on and say, you know what, on to the next thing. That happened. I can't control it. But what I can control is what I do next. And that's the most important thing.
And are you more motivated by the success, or you just, or the pain of seeing where you've been and not wanting to go back there?
It's a good question that I'm not sure I have thought about. I think it's probably a mix of both. I mean, if you look at the way I was living before on, the streets of Philadelphia, running around like a crazy person, obviously I'll do anything not to go back to that. But on that same foot, the success and the lifestyle and the things that sobriety and GDS has allowed me to have now, I don't ever want to lose that either, right? So I think it's a healthy balance of the two that really allows me to stay balanced and level-headed and right-minded through everything.
And how about as far as your identity? Who do you believe you are?
It's
You know,
interesting that's very interesting that you say that. So I 100% wholeheartedly believe that I am an alcoholic. I'm an addict. I believe that I'm a salesperson. I believe that I'm
the
a
top
good guy.
three, the
Well,
trifecta.
yeah, absolutely. Over anything else, I believe that I'm a good guy trying to do the right thing, trying to help other people. That is kind of my core value is how can I go out of my way and help somebody. That is what brings me peace. It actually probably does more for me than it does for anyone that I would help, because it takes me outside of my own head and it allows me to fill it with something that brings me joy. And I think whatever that is, whether it's helping people or going for a walk and making a video on your cell phone, whatever that looks like for you, it's important to get outside of yourself sometimes, and put others.
Now, I've always had like these anchors, pay stubs, autographs from people, awards in my office, so that whenever I get down, and I may not look at them for 6 months or a long time, but I have them there to remind me of what I'm capable of. Do you have those types of things, or have you come up with a system?
So my first probably 2 years at GDS, I had a little cutout of the Serenity prayer, which
Yeah.
is a prayer that we say in a 12-step program I'm a part of. And I had it taped on my desk. And if you think about this, I was coming into a brand new job with brand new people. I'm this new guy who has the Serenity prayer taped on his desk, and people kind of looking at me like, what is this guy, what's he doing? But that always kept it fresh for me. It allowed me to always have in my head, that's where, it reminded me of where I came from, but also in the moment kept me level-headed, where I needed to accept the things I couldn't change, and the courage to change the things that I can. And that saying and seeing that and saying it allowed me form a practice of not getting too reactionary when problems arose, or etc. But yeah, that I think that's one of the only things that I've had as I guess a thing that reminded me of past times. Besides, it's always in my head, and every time I speak to somebody, Brian, I feel, once I get close to them, I feel like I'm hiding something when I don't share who I am. And I think it's just better to get it off your chest, share who you are, be vulnerable, be open. I've never had a negative response from sharing my story. I don't do it too often. This is the first time I've done this publicly. So, I mean, I think that if you stay invisible, and nobody knows, and if nobody knows, then no one knows to come to you for help. So I choose to make my story known, so that maybe a coworker knows what I've went through, and they have a family member, which has happened 3 or 4 times since starting GDS, where they come up to me, they ask for advice, I'm able to point them in the right direction. So that's why I think it's important just to get, put yourself out there, be vulnerable, be open, and hopefully that opens up the right doors for you.
Well, I think the serenity prayer helps you with a couple of things, gets you into the moment, which is big in recovery. It's about right now, because this is the only moment you have any control over. You can't change the past. You can influence the future, but it's still not here. And then to focus on the things you can change and recognize the things you can't, which, the things you can't, you worry and have anxiety about. And it puts all your energy on the things that you can. And I think that process is very helpful in sales, because we sit and what are they going to say? Well, you don't know until you talk to them. Is it worth sitting down and practicing it? Yeah. Is it worth worrying about a deal coming in or not coming in if you can't influence it? How about as far as coaches within the company? Did anybody take you under their wing?
Yeah, so I think I was very fortunate, having come into the business through a referral. So I actually got to sit next to my current fiance, who was the top trainee in her class at the time. And on the other side was the global #1 sales producer in the entire business. So I had two people next to me, that could really influence and teach me the GDS way. On top of that, the VP who ran the office also managed the pod that I was on. So I had the trifecta of people that I needed, the best people that could possibly help me. But as you know, internal mentors, they only get you so far. They get you as far as the limitations of your company. They don't take you
They
outside
don't do it for
of,
you.
right. They don't translate, they don't look at your entire life and what that means for your sales career, just for what your career means at GDS for me. So what I actually did, and it's very similar to the way that my recovery worked, which is you seek out mentors and they give you guidance, because they've been through it before, right? They have the experience, they've been married, they've done this, they've done that. They know the things that you want and you're about to go through, and they point you in the right direction, right? So it's the same thing with finding a mentor in sales. And I have a few mentors in sales now. The way that I got them, they were actually current clients. So a few guys from IBM, who's one of our key accounts at GDS, and then a few other guys from various groups, whether it's Salesforce or some smaller technology companies, where I was engaging with these senior sales leaders. And I don't know if I intentionally sought them out for mentorship, but I knew that I wanted to be close to them and I wanted to learn from them. And I think it just evolved into that. So two of those senior VPs of sales from IBM are invited to my wedding. We've gotten very close. I can call them for anything, and they know that I would do anything for them. It goes back to the, whether you're cold calling a prospect or whether you're afraid to send an email or anything really. It's about just putting yourself out there, being vulnerable, and asking for help. I think being able to ask for help is one of the best attributes somebody can have.
Yeah.
Is to just say, hey, are you willing to help me? Can you help in this area? I have a question about this. And it doesn't have to be, hey, will you be my mentor? It's, hey, I
Right.
saw that you were, doing really well in this area. Can you help guide me in the right direction? Or I have a single question. I think you'd be best suited to answer it. And then ask the question. And if there's a connection, it will evolve into something naturally. But yeah, I think mentorship has been huge in my life. And just being able to look to others, because the reality is, Brian, I don't know what's best. All I have is my experience to
Right.
work off of.
Right.
But if I'm a smart guy, I'm going to steal someone else's experience and learn from their mistakes to help me excel in my life.
I think it is the number one thing and it's almost never done, especially with young people in sales. They feel that it says I'm not good enough or I don't know what I'm doing, but it really says just the opposite. I want to become better.
Exactly.
Right. I I surrender to the idea I'm not perfect. And that minute that you declare that you're not perfect is the day you start becoming better at sales. Because if you want to learn through experience, it's going to take 10 years. If you want to learn from someone else's experience, a year or two would be okay.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You have to silence your pride and silence your ego and your
Right.
selfishness as a salesperson and just say, you know what, I don't know everything. Let me ask somebody who has done this for 20, 30, 40 years, who can maybe help me avoid a mistake that I don't want to make. And that it's been huge for me.
And that moment, it might take some people 5-10 years to figure out. But the person you're asking, they've seen the movie 1,000 times. They know how it ends. They can tell, and you're like, I know it better. Or they say, well, what would you do? They throw the 100% of the onus on the other person instead of showing your work. Like in school, where the teacher says, well, show your work and in math. I don't know if you remember that. It's like they want to see your work, how you got to the answer, because they can't help you unless they see what your thought process was. You come up with the wrong answer, but you don't know how. Why'd you come up with that answer?
And I was the guy who just had the answer because I copied off the person next to me.
Right.
So
you didn't learn anything.
I didn't learn a thing.
You got the A though, right?
That's right.
Well, where do you want to take your career?
That's a really good question. It's a question I get asked often with current clients offering jobs, etc. I'm happy at GDS. GDS is a great company. We're doing some really cool things in the virtual event landscape, driving really, really positive pipeline results for our customers. And I'm doing well and I'm having fun. And yes, I may be limited to my learning capacity internally, like those walls we talked about with mentorship internally. But that doesn't mean I can't go and learn and figure out new things on my own, and connect with guys like you and other sales leaders throughout the world are just a phone call away. And if I'm willing to put myself out there, it'll come back to help me. I'm not 100% sure where I want to go next, and I don't know if I'm 100% concerned with where I want to go next. Like you said, I need to stay in the moment, and that's kind of my whole philosophy: is put your head down, do the hard work, do it right, be a good person, and trust in that process. And if you continue to do that, and every step of the way is the right way, or you're doing it to the best of your ability, then something will come along, it will work out, and opportunities will be put in front of you. I've been very blessed in that regard. And I'm just going to keep trucking along on that path. If there comes a time where, there's a new opportunity for me, and I'm sure that that time will come, it'll definitely be in sales. That's absolutely my calling, and something that I love to do.
Great. Hey, I appreciate your time today, Jeff. Where can people go to connect with you?
Yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn. It is the only social platform that I use. I miss the days of the Instagrams and the Twitters because I was out doing other things. So I'm on LinkedIn, Jeff Teppel, and I'd love to connect.
What I like about stories about recovery is that it shows that people can change, and if they want to change, and that it's not easy. I don't know if you've known anybody who's gone through it. I've seen it. It's not easy, but when people decide to, they can do it. But they have to want to. And we have to be supportive as friends and family to help them. Can't do it for them, though. And a lot of it's like sales because we have to change to become better. We have to practice to become better. We have to take feedback. We have to take a hard look at ourselves and what we're doing because the world does not change to us. We have to change to the world. Few people it changes for, not so many. To answer the question that I put, what were the kind of the key distinctions of who makes the best sales leaders? It became very evident that the ones who got into it to help other people versus the ones who got into it as the next step in their career. The next step in the career thing doesn't pan out because, or it can, because people can change. That's the whole point of the podcast, Brian. But you have to really want to change. And when you get so wired, your brain gets so wired to be motivated by money, competition, winning, success, being number one, whatever it is, because those people are the ones that succeed in sales. The ones who just want to help customers, go to support, go to marketing. You'll be happier there. But in sales, you really want to close deals. You don't listen to a sales podcast to help your clients. Of course, you want to help them, but that's on the road to becoming successful. If you just want to go help people, go volunteer somewhere. We're here at sales because we want to sell our product to be successful. And of course, to the people who could gain the most from it. But when you get into leadership, it is about helping develop those people. Because if the people aren't successful, you're not successful. You can luck into, an office space job, but to have it be consistent, to be somebody of value. And maybe it's just that these were the people that got recommended to the show because I asked reps, I didn't ask leaders themselves. So I think that part was really good. What else did I have for you? Look at your pipeline, will you? Look at your calendar. How much time you got left? Don't you want to just crush it? Do you think you're really saving time and money by not becoming great at this? Do you think it's just going to happen naturally? Good luck with the naturally thing. You need help. You do. You do. Admit it. Look in the mirror. You need some help. What you need is start the conversation, get the meeting. You need to fill up that calendar. You need those skills to develop, to fill up the calendar with great meetings, with conversations, starting talking about the other person. And that's not a natural skill. It takes skill, baby. The other thing you need is winning the complex sale. That will help you crush it now until the end of the year. Also, make sure you're checking out the other podcasts, Sales Leadership Show, B2B Revenue Leadership, and the Sales Questions podcast. I put these up on YouTube as well if you'd like to watch the video of them. It's pretty interesting. It gives you a different perspective if you like to get the visual element of the interview, which could be helpful. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening. Tell a friend about the show. I'd appreciate that. Trying to build up the audience would be helpful. Just one friend. You don't have to tell all of your friends. You know, you got a lot of them out there. And submit your questions on LinkedIn. If you see my stuff fly by, give it a little thumbs up, a little share, a little commento. I'd appreciate that. We'll see you next time.